Hey, everybody, and welcome to Where's God podcast. In this podcast, we try to find God in movies, books, shows, and places where He's not obviously found. And we most importantly try to find God in our own stories. And this episode is called Where's God in the Miracle Club. And I'm a little sick, so bear with me. But this movie was just added to Netflix. I was trying to figure out what to watch one day and this came up. And I do love me a good movie with old ladies and with some humor in there and women using their wisdom, telling people how it is, giving it to them straight. So I was like, oh, this is going to be a good movie. And you can't really go wrong with Kathy Bates and Maggie Smith. Those are the stars of the movie, as well as other well-known actors. The title, The Miracle Club, made me think this is going to be about women who help bring about miracles in others' lives, or they're going to go around trying to find miracles. I don't know, that was just what I first thought of, but it turned out to be different than what I expected. So the movie is set in Dublin in 1967. The movie starts off on the day of a woman's funeral and her daughter coming back to Ireland for the funeral for the first time in 40 years. We don't find out for a while why the daughter hasn't gone back home in 40 years or seen her mother that whole time. But the mother left her a note just in case she came back. And in the note, the mom tells her daughter she's sorry. And you can tell it has a big impact on the daughter when she reads that, which shows that it's never too late to say you're sorry. Even when you're dead, you can still say you're sorry, apparently. But also how much a sorry can mean. If the mother had said it a lot sooner, it obviously could have repaired their severed relationship, because you could tell when she read that the mom was sorry that it really had a big impact on her. And I think saying you're sorry is showing your love for another person and letting them know how much their feelings matter to you. It's also acknowledging your wrongdoing and becoming aware so that you can change and become better. And this is also like when we're saying sorry to God and repenting. We're being vulnerable with Him and using Christ's atonement to be forgiven and become better. In the beginning, we are also introduced to the woman who's died friends, and they have very hard feelings towards the daughter. Her name's Chrissy. And again, we don't know why. And it shows these women really wanting to go to Lourdes, which I didn't know where that was, but you later find out that it's in France. And they make a really big deal of it, and they end up winning tickets to go. But nobody in their lives want them to go. Their husbands think they're crazy. They tell them to sell their tickets. They say, if you leave, don't come back. Or some of the husbands are like, well, what am I going to do without you? I need you here. But the women have always wanted to go to Lourdes, and they don't let anybody stop them. Which makes me think that if we have something inside us telling us to do something, we should follow it no matter what others say. We have to remember that if God tells us something, it might not make sense to other people because God didn't tell them. And I did get that from Steve Harvey. But I completely agree that, if God tells us something, it's not always going to make sense to the other person because God didn't tell them that. So follow what He tells us no matter what. And we find out that the women are going to Lourdes because they want a miracle in their life. It's been said that the Virgin Mary visited Lourdes in 1858 and healed a young girl. And now people go again and again to this place to have their own miracle. The women in the group are going to support this one mom who has a son that doesn't speak. And I think he's probably around 7 and he doesn't speak at all. But then you also find out they're going for their own miracles. One woman has a lump in her breast and the other has a really bad leg. And the daughter of the lady who died, Chrissy, she ends up going on the trip, which the ladies hate because they don't like her. And Chrissy, to me, is a really special character. She doesn't let how the others feel about her affect her. She continues to help and be kind despite how cruel they can be to her at times. And we can use Chrissy as an example. We can be that way too when we're confident in who we are and whose we are. When we know we're children of God and when we try our best to do His will and work, we can be strong and have confidence in Him instead of putting our confidence in others. Chrissy is being kind and confident when she tries to help the mother of the son who doesn't speak. At one point, she tells the mom, he'll talk when he has something to say. And another point, look at him and let him tell you what he's trying to say instead of forcing him to say something. And this made me think of God and our relationship with Him. When God has something to tell us or a direction for us, He'll let us know. I think most of the time He trusts us and allows us to make righteous decisions on our own, but He will intervene when He needs to. And on the other side of that, when Chrissy's saying, look at him and let him tell you what he's trying to say instead of forcing him, I think sometimes when we're asking for something of God, we might just be looking for God to tell us what we want to hear instead of looking to Him and listening, like Chrissy said. So I think we can, instead of just going with what we think we should do, we should stop and ponder and try to hear God instead of doing our will. So the day comes for the miracle. They basically go to this castle where Mary was, and they bathe themselves in water to be healed. But after they do this, the son doesn't talk, the woman's lump in her breast doesn't go away, and the woman's legs aren't healed. But God does perform miracles, but not in the ways the women were looking for. The mother has incredible guilt, we find out, because she tried to have a miscarriage when she was pregnant, and she feels like this is the reason why her son can't talk. But Chrissy, who was banished from Dublin because she was pregnant, ends up having an abortion. She tells the mom that she did not hurt the baby. And Chrissy can confidently say this to the woman, that you did not hurt your baby. And by the woman sharing this, it's a huge weight lifted off of her chest, and it's a huge relief to her knowing that it wasn't her actions that caused her child not to talk. And the woman with the lump in her breast is given courage to go see the doctor, which she was putting off and she was too afraid to do. And the woman with the bad leg tells Chrissy it's not her fault that her son died. So something else that happens is when Chrissy is banished to America because she was pregnant, the man who she got pregnant with ends up drowning, and everyone blames Chrissy for it, and she blames herself for it. But the woman with the bad leg is the mother of this boy, and she tells Chrissy that it wasn't her fault and that it was actually something that she ended up telling her son that might have been the cause for why he died. Through them sharing these things with each other, they are able to heal and forgive one another. And even the son at the end, who doesn't speak, says home when no one is listening. So God helped heal the real wounds that these women were suffering from. God brought them miracles they were hiding from or didn't realize they needed. God knows what we really need to be healed more than we know. He gave those women bigger miracles than they could have ever imagined for themselves. He gave them miracles they actually needed. And they were seeking Him in the best way they knew. They were seeking Him by going to Lourdes, and they were asking what they really thought they needed help with. And I think as long as we are attempting to find God and seeking Him, we'll find His goodness, and He'll show up for us. And He'll show up for us in the most beautiful ways. we never could have thought up ourselves. So keep seeking God and pray and put yourself in positions to hear Him guide you, and He will show up for you. One lady says in the movie, there's always hope even when we don't believe all the way. And I believe that. God will come in and make up for the belief we're missing at times in our life, and He'll bring miracles to us.